Today, I have got a very special guest, Preeti Raghunath. She is teaching journalism and mass communication at Symbiosis Institute of Media and Communication, that is based in Pune. Earlier, she did her PhD from Hyderabad Central University. She has recently published a book that is titled Community Radio Policies in South Asia, a deliberative policy ecology approach. It was published by Palgrave Macmillan in 2020. So what I'm going to do here for 30 to 40 minutes, I'll be asking Preeti questions about her book, and also what she is engaging with, what she is thinking about. She is different in a sense that most of journalists who are writing and who are into, let's say, in the field of media and journalism, they are not theoretically engaging with the subject. So she is one exception, and in her work, she is also doing field work. She is doing field work. She is widely traveling. So she is not making her judgment and theorizing just sitting at one place. During her PhD, she visited Sri Lanka. She also went to Bangladesh. She is already familiar with the situation in India, and she also went to Nepal. So, Preeti, thank you very much for joining and deciding to share your thought with us.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here, and I think it's an honor to be talking to you. I really appreciate the efforts that you've been making in, bringing together people to talk to various kinds of audiences. So I'm very lucky to be part of this.
Thank you very much, friends. I also want to tell you that Preeti and me, we were doing our masters together at Jawaharlal Nehru University. We were both in SIS, and after that I went to do my MPhil and PhD in history, and she did her PhD in journalism. We also share one interesting point. We both have some degree in journalism. I was also working in newspaper. I also have a degree in journalism. So we are friends, and we also share interest. So Preeti, uh, let me first ask you the question. Your book, Community Radio Policies in South Asia, a deliberative policy ecology approach. Many people have read your book, but there would be many more who may not be aware about your work. So please briefly tell us what are you interested in, what have you written, and why your book is making valuable contribution to knowledge. Yes.
Yeah. So when I was at SIS, actually, one of the things that I thought was missing at a school of international studies was the study of the non-state actor that media is. And it's a huge actor in today's times, globally and nationally and regionally as well, across scales. And I thought this was missing, and that was what prompted me to come up with something that is related to communication, which I already was delving into otherwise. So when I got the opportunity to do a PhD in communication, I was looking at how I could bring in insights from international studies and global studies to media and communication research. So, which is why I looked at South Asia. My interest in South Asia came from there, from our very US kind of engagement with what is called area studies. But the idea was to go beyond just area studies to conceptualize South Asia from the bottom up. I'll come to that in a bit, maybe through the course of the talk. And then I was I was very interested in media policy because I believe that, a lot of times we are engaging with the legalities of it, or we are looking at media, but media policies and policy making for media has not been looked at. I was very interested in the unearthing the politics of media policy making. And when I joined the department at the University of Hyderabad, the UNESCO chair on community media got set up. And I got the opportunity to work on a couple of projects to acquaint myself with what is called community radio. Now, what is community radio? We often hear of radio and we think of either a public service broadcaster, which is All India Radio, or we think of private FM channels like a Radio FM, Radio Mirchi or Red FM or whatever. Now, community radio is a third tier of broadcasting which exists in India. And in South Asia, it's been a long movement. It started in the late 1970s. And my book tries to capture this trajectory of the movement for community radio across countries in South Asia. These are the 4 countries that have had significant movements in the region for community radio, which is why I looked at these 4 countries only. Afghanistan also has community radio, but it is the result of a US kind of an engagement in the post-war scenario to enable peace building and things like that. It is run by Internews and other international organizations. But in other ways, it is these 4 countries which have had a protracted movement for community radio. So the history and the understanding of, a region which is so rich in oral histories and cultures, and community radio as a site, as a localized kind of medium, which can register these markers of orality, was very fascinating for me. And combining that with my interest in politics and global media studies, global communication, I conceptualized something this study where I could look at policy making for community radio in South Asia, to try and do a historiography, a study of the histories of policy making, unearthing the politics of policy making, to look at a range of policy actors other than the state. And this is important. We often think of policy as associated with the state, but a lot of times there are activists, there are advocates, there are international bodies, a range of policy actors who are working with the state or trying to negotiate with the state. And the idea was to unearth the politics of policy making for this particular medium in South Asia. That's I don't know if that was brief, but simply put, that was what my endeavor was. And that took me, I did a policy ethnography, which is an anthropological method. The idea was to locate myself in policy making venues. And when I say venues, I don't mean government ministerial bodies or corporate boardrooms alone, but also non-formal and informal spaces like activist spaces, NGOs, media-related NGOs which work in these countries, international donor agencies, international UN bodies and organizations like UN bodies, multilateral agencies, to try and understand how their vision statements are brought about. How do NGOs work with funding for on media policy related issues? How activists have been working with transnational organizations on making a case for community radio, to basically look at all these aspects through an ethnography. And that's what took me to Sri Lanka, Nepal, India, and Bangladesh.
Thank you, Preeti. I also want to add one very interesting debate. We both study international relations, and there is a debate in international relations that whether a state is primary actor or whether non-state actors are also important. So realist paradigm, they say that a state is the center, while the liberals argue, the neoliberals argue, that no, the centrality of a state is not ruled out, but international politics is not all about a state. There are multinational organizations, there are NGOs, there are several non-state actors that should also be studied. And I was reading recently Cohen's article, Nye and Cohen, and he said that if you have to understand the policy of Britain, the foreign policy of Britain vis-a-vis Iraq or Middle East, you have to look at it through oil company. So Preeti, by studying international relations, has somehow critiqued the realist paradigm, which argues that a state is the beginning, the middle, and the end of the international relations. And that is why she has done work in India, Pakistan, India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and Nepal. So it is some kind of comparative study, and she is trying to understand trying to understand the participation of people, and her focus is she is trying to tell the story through the story of community radio. So I have read your piece in Himal, where you have defined community radio, that it is broadcasting owned and operated by communities at local level. It is meant for fulfilling the interest of local people. It is separated from private, state, and public radio services. So two sets of criticism can be made against such formulations. One will be that you are arguing that the community radio is separate, it is independent. But when the community radio is being operated, is it really separated from NGOs and from, let's say, corporate players? And the second
Yeah.
question
So
is, that why community has not been problematized, why community is taken as a category that cannot be questioned.
yeah, sure. I think your video has frozen, but I'll take both the questions for those who are watching us in any case. The first, criticism against community radio, and these are very valid criticisms, and it's not new. In fact, people who are advocates of community radio themselves study community radio and make these criticisms and levy these charges that there is NGOization and increasingly a professionalization of community radio. The second to answer your second question, there are works which problematize the idea of the community and understanding the notion of community as a instead of looking at it as a homogeneous category, to try and even at the community level you have power structures. Communities are in that sense. Hi, you're back. I've already been speaking and answering your questions. Yeah. So when you ask me about community, the idea of community is not a homogeneous entity, and it's not a homogeneous category. You do have power structures within communities at the local level, and community is not defined only by geography. It is also defined as communities of interest, especially with broadcasting. While you have community radio broadcasting, there's also web streaming and things like that of these stations which are broadcasting. So you have globalized transnational kind of communities that now exist for something like community radio as well. However, this was not in the ambit of my study, in the sense that while I look at community radio, the ambit of my work was limited to looking at them as to understand their participation in the policy process, because my lens was a media policy making lens. There are others. There are a few friends of mine who look at the question of the idea of community in community radio, or they look at in the politics of community radio, the epistemologies and the knowledge aspect related to community radio, and how it serves as a site for to register certain kinds of knowledges which are otherwise lost in a world that is increasingly moving towards certain kinds of literacies, but not orality. If you consider it in technical terms. So the idea was to look at the policy making for it, and not so much work with the idea of community radio itself. No, you're not.
Hello.
Yeah, you are. You are.
So I am asking, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
So I am saying that if Ambedkar would have been alive, will he be comfortable with the idea of community and radio? Because for him, the community is very much. It's a
Yeah, I
very much.
understand what you mean when you say that community. I mean, I already mentioned this just before your video and audio got cut off. It's not to say that communities are homogeneous entities. They are. I mean, it depends on the context in which communities, radios themselves operate, right? So geographical markers, regional markers, and certain universalizing tendencies also get codified into something like the broadcasting of community radio. So in that sense, you do have power structures at the local level which play out in terms of caste politics or religion based politics. So any individual would perhaps wait for look at ideas of freedom of expression. However, these are challenged by localized power structures. So it is a tussle, but it's an ongoing kind of a struggle. The democratization of media is an ongoing struggle, and the idea is to democratize from the ground up, which is why I located policy making also from the ground up. It is to make these people associated with community radio, who are often left out of mainstream media, also to recognize them as policy actors.
Okay. So I'm asking a questions that is very commonsensical. That you are talking about community radio, and in journalism we also have studied that the radio can be very useful at the time of calamity, at the time of war, when all connections are not working. So
Right.
nobody is denying the importance of radio, but at a time when, let's say, social media is becoming very popular, I'm saying social media is becoming very popular, even the poor people, that persons
Right.
may not have mobile phone, but somehow it is reaching, or it is
Right.
increasingly reaching, if it has not
Right.
reached everybody. So given that social media, let's say YouTube or maybe Facebook, so in this situation, in this background, how far radio holds importance, as a medium of communications, as an agency for the social change, as we have put it in your book.
Right. So the idea is not to juxtapose one media against another. We need a plural media landscape. And the idea is to make space for all kinds of media, because we live in an India where we have something called multiple temporalities existing at the same time. We have AI. We talk about AI and related technologies in urban spaces or even in rural, infrastructure building now. But we also live in a time when, during the corona pandemic, community radios actually worked with migrant labor. Were able to make there are some case studies and success stories coming out of the pandemic kind of situation, which portrays the importance and the increasing relevance or maybe the continued relevance of something like this. So the idea is not to say that to juxtapose it against other kind of media and other kind of connectivity opportunities, but to make a case for all kinds of media to exist at the same time. And you must remember that community radio and radio is one of the few media mediums through which you can access spectrum. And for community radio, that spectrum auctions have recently concluded, and the money that is generated through corporate auction of spectrum and the corporate buying of spectrum is huge. It's a huge revenue for the government. But for community radio, they give it at a very subsidized price in comparison. And this is possibly the only chance for communities to access a broadcasting setup. So the idea is to make a shift in the broadcasting setup, even as other kinds of connectivities emerge and are increasingly available to people. We don't have to really negate what are understood as older forms of media. So I end my Himal piece by saying that it's not a contestation between the old and new. It's about making space for all kinds of media and the people